The galaxy's edge was a silent, empty place. No trade ships, no patrol fleets, just cold stars and endless darkness. Most species called it a dead zone and stayed far away. But they were wrong. Something lived out here, something powerful, and something very, very human. On the bridge of the covert ship, Vigilant Dawn, Captain Aidan Cross watched the void on the main screen. His eyes were sharp, his face a mask of calm. To anyone else, this patch of space looked peaceful. To him, it was the calm before a storm. The crew moved quietly, their voices low. They all knew why they were here. They had intercepted a warning, an ancient human signal, thousands of years old, that had suddenly reactivated from the depths of space. No one knew how or why. Humanity had no records of ever sending it, but its message was chillingly clear. Do not open. Do not approach. This fire can burn civilizations. Most species would have dismissed it or studied it recklessly. But humanity was different. We remember our past all too well. Hidden wars, forbidden technologies, ancient projects buried so deep they were almost myth. If this message was truly human, it meant one of those myths was waking up. Aidan turned to his second-in-command, Myra Lane. She stood rigid, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. "Are we sure it's human?" he asked, his voice barely a murmur. Myra nodded. "The encryption matches old Earth protocols, pre-expansion era. It might be even older. Older than jump engines. Older than the first colony ships." That single fact sent a ripple of unease across the bridge. The Vigilant Dawn drifted slowly toward the signal's source, a dead moon orbiting a dim, dying star. Its surface was a graveyard of cracked rock and ancient, shattered metal. "What happened here?" Myra whispered, her voice full of awe and dread. Aidan didn't answer. He was thinking what everyone else was. Did we do this? Did humans destroy this moon long ago? Suddenly, a soft alarm beeped. The ship's technician, Curran, spun around in his chair. "Sir, something is waking up." Under the moon's surface, the bridge fell silent. "What kind of something?" Aidan demanded. Curran swallowed hard. "It's not a ship, not a station, sir. It looks like a door." Aidan stepped closer to the screen. Just as Curran said, the moon's crust was cracking open like a colossal vault. Dust and debris floated away into the void. A massive, circular gate rose from the chasm, glowing with a faint blue light, as if it had been waiting patiently for someone to return. Mira's voice was a low whisper. Why would ancient humans hide a door inside a dead moon? Aidan's throat felt dry. "Because whatever is behind it," he said, "was never meant to be found." The gate began to hum, its energy readings spiking off the charts. The crew flinched as the lights on the bridge flickered. Curran shouted, "Captain, it's scanning us. Shields up." Aidan ordered instantly, but it was useless. The scan passed right through the ship like a ghost. It wasn't looking for weapons. It was looking for an identity. Within seconds, the gate's surface began to shift. Metal plates rearranged themselves like a puzzle solving itself. The blue light bled into a deep, warning red. Mira whispered, "Sir, I think it recognizes us." Aidan stared at the glowing red surface. "Or, it recognizes that we don't belong." Before anyone could react, the bridge lights dimmed, and the ship's AI spoke. Its voice strained. "Captain, I am receiving a message from the gate." "Play it," Aidan commanded. The voice that echoed through the bridge was ancient, tired, and dry, but it was unmistakably human. "To any future humans receiving this, leave. Do not open the vault. What sleeps here is not a weapon for your enemies. It is a weapon to stop us from ourselves." The crew froze. Aidan felt a cold dread crawl up his spine. A weapon to stop humanity. Mira looked at him, her eyes wide with fear. Why would we build something like that? But the message wasn't finished. If this signal has awakened, it means one thing. Something out there has reached your level of power. And when humanity rises too high, the fire must rise with it. A deep rumble shook the ship. The vault was opening. Karen's voice cracked with panic. "Captain, we have to get out of here now." But it was too late. A blinding beam of red light shot from the moon, flooding the ship's sensors with impossible data. Aidan stared at the readings, and for the first time in years, he felt true fear. "This isn't a weapon," he whispered. "It's a warning system." The vault's inner chamber opened fully. Inside, something massive stirred. Not a machine, not a creature, something in between, something built to judge. The voice spoke one last time. A final, terrible warning. "If you are human, run. If you are not human, prey. The moon cracked apart. The thing inside awakened. Aiden turned to his crew, his voice roaring through the chaos. Full power, get us out of here. But as the vigilant Dawn scrambled to escape, he knew the terrifying truth. Whatever humanity had locked away at the edge of the galaxy was waking up, and this time, it wasn't going back to sleep. The vigilant Dawn strained its engines to the absolute limit, but the moon behind us just kept shaking, glowing brighter with every passing second. On the bridge, no one dared to speak. We could only stare at the main screen as the ancient vault fully awakened. Like a colossal eye-opening for the first time in millennia, Mira gripped the side of her console, her knuckles white. "Captain, something is coming out." I forced myself to look. A truly massive shape was rising from the cracked lunar surface, low, deliberate, impossibly heavy. This wasn't any machine I recognized. Its surface wasn't metal, but something more like black stone, fused with plates of smooth, dark armor. Lines of crimson energy pulsed across its body like veins. Kern, our tactical officer, whispered, "That thing is older than all of us." I shook my head. "No, that thing is older than humanity's memory." The creature machine lifted its head. It had no face, no eyes, yet every single one of us felt its gaze lock onto us, right through the ship's hull. Suddenly, the vault's red glow intensified, shifting to a blinding white-hot. Energy readings spiked so high the scanners screamed in alarm. Captain Kern shouted, "It's charging something." I didn't need to know what it was. Any ancient weapon built for humanity's self-judgment was far beyond anything we could survive. "Jump engines now," I ordered. The navigator slammed his hands on the controls, but the ship didn't respond. "I can't," he cried out, panic in his voice. "Something is locking us in place." The vault creature raised one immense arm, moving slowly, like it was waking from a dream it hated. A beam of red light shot out, stretching toward our ship. It wasn't an attack, it was a scan, analyzing, measuring, judging. Mira swallowed hard. "Sir, it's reading our DNA." My heart dropped. It wasn't judging if we were enemies, it was judging if we were worthy. The creature's body brightened, and suddenly, our ship's lights flickered and died. Every console went black, then flashed white. A single message appeared on every screen, written in stark, ancient human script. "Humanity has broken balance." Mira stared in shock. What balance? What did our ancestors do? I had no answers. But whatever it was, this ancient guardian believed we had crossed the line. The message updated. "Measure response, purify or release," Curran whispered, his voice trembling. "Sir, is it asking if it should destroy us?" A slight tremor ran through the ship. Not an explosion, a pulse. The creature was waiting. It felt like it was waiting for us to defend ourselves. I frowned. "It's testing us. It wants to see how we react." Mira shook her head. "To prove what? That we're violent, or that we're peaceful?" "Maybe both," I said, stepping closer to the main screen. The creature lowered its arm. On the moon, the vault began to open wider, revealing a cavernous chamber deep beneath the surface. Row after row of giant stone capsules lined the walls, stretching into the darkness. The crew fell silent. There were hundreds, no, thousands of them. Each one glowed with a faint red light, as if something alive rested inside. Mira whispered, "What did humans lock away down there?" I didn't want to imagine. Not machines, not weapons. "It looks like ... failures." The vault's voice returned, echoing through every speaker on the ship. Humanity built what it could not control. Deep inside the vault, one of the capsules cracked open. A cloud of dust rose. Something inside stirred. Something shaped like a human, but taller, sharper, somehow more perfect. A prototype, a version of humanity that should never have existed. Mira stepped back, her breath shaking. "These are old experiments." I nodded, my jaw tight. Humanity once tried to upgrade itself, to become something more. The vault thundered again. Humans released impossible fire into the galaxy, fire that others now reach for. The meaning hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just about our past, this was about now. Humanity had grown too fast, too powerful, and now, every alien empire was trying to catch up, grabbing at technology they couldn't possibly understand. This vault wasn't built to protect humanity, it was built to protect the universe from us. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. The creature machine raised its arm again this time. It wasn't scanning. A weapon was forming in its hand, a glowing sphere of burning white light. Curran shouted in panic, It's charging a purification blast. We had seconds. Mira, I yelled. Override the jump lock. I'm trying, she screamed back, her hands a blur across the controls. But it's blocking every command. The weapon grew brighter. I gritted my teeth. There had to be a way. A back door. A shutdown code. AI, I snapped. Search for any old Earth override keys. Anything related to human vault systems. The ship's AI replied instantly. Searching. One match found. I inhaled sharply. Send it. A single word appeared on the screen. It sounded less like a password and more like a dire warning. I spoke it aloud. Ashfall. The moment the word left my lips, every light around the vault flickered. The creature froze. Its weapon dimmed. The entire moon shuddered, as if forced to obey against its will. The vault's voice returned quieter, slower, and filled with a cold fury. Command accepted, but at a cost. Myra stared at me, her eyes wide with fear. What cost? A deep rumble shook the ship again. The vault was awakening the rest of the capsules, all of them. My face hardened as I understood. This wasn't a shutdown code, I whispered. It was a release code. The moon began to split open completely, as thousands of ancient, perfected human prototypes began to rise from their tombs. And somewhere, deep inside the fractured world, something even older opened its eyes. The vault's roar tore through space like a shockwave, and the dead moon trembled. Ancient chambers, sealed for millennia, split open, showering dust and stone upwards in the low gravity. And from those cracks, shapes began to rise. They weren't machines. They weren't aliens. They weren't exactly human, either. On the bridge of the vigilant dawn, Mira stared through the viewscreen, breathless. Captain, there are too many, she whispered. Aiden gripped the rail, his jaw tight. Thousands, maybe more. One by one, the prototypes stepped out from their cryocapsules. They were tall, lean, built like warriors, but their faces were unnervingly calm, emotionless. Their skin was pale, like cold marble, and their eyes glowed with a faint blue light, as if powered from within. Karen's voice shook as he spoke. These were the early ascended human projects. The rumors said they were all destroyed thousands of years ago. Aiden shook his head. Not destroyed, hidden. The ship shuddered again as a surge of energy pulsed across the moon's fractured surface. The vault's guardian, a monstrous fusion of flesh and machine, raised its arms. Red lines of power cut across its body, pulsing like a heartbeat, and the prototypes responded instantly. They stood in perfect, silent rows, heads raised, awaiting their orders. They're soldiers, Mira whispered, a chill running down her spine. No, Aiden replied, his voice low. They're regulators. Humanity once created them to police itself, to stop us if we ever became too powerful. As one, the prototypes began to move, a single, silent, and terrifyingly precise organism. But then, something else happened. From the deepest chamber of the vault, a sound echoed, a heavy, slow, rhythmic breathing that didn't belong to any machine. It felt ancient, older than humanity, older than civilization itself. Aiden felt it before he even heard it, a pressure building in the air, a sudden weight in his chest. What else did they put down there? Mira whispered, her eyes wide with fear. A new crack split open in the farthest chamber. Two massive hands, forged of stone and flesh, pushed through the rock, breaking it apart like soft clay. Even the vault's grotesque guardian turned, almost as if it too feared what was emerging. Curran stumbled back from his console. That is not a prototype. That is something else. A figure stepped out of the darkness. It was tall as a titan, with armor that seemed to grow directly from its flesh. It had a human shape, but it was too large, too heavy, too powerful. Its eyes burned with a bright, golden light, and its spine glowed like a miniature reactor core. Mira gasped. What is that? Aiden could only whisper the one name ancient data logs ever used for such a being. Primeforms. Humanity's first attempt to create not just super soldiers, but gods. Untouchable, immortal, and impossible to control. The legends said they were all stopped before they could spread, but the legends were wrong. One had survived, and now it was awake. The Primeform lifted its head. As it inhaled, dust and shattered rocks swirled towards it, as if the very air obeyed its will. In perfect unison, all the lesser prototypes dropped to one knee, their heads bowed in submission. The Primeform studied the vigilant dawn, dismissing it as a mere spark in the vast darkness of space. Captain, it sees us. Myra whispered. The being didn't attack, it didn't speak, it simply raised a hand. The moon beneath it cracked deeper, glowing from within as if magma was stirring in its core. The hair on Aiden's neck stood on end. It's drawing power from the moon's core. Golden lines of energy surged through the broken vault, and even the guardian creature stepped back, giving the Primeform space. Suddenly, the ship's alarms screamed to life. Curran shouted, "Captain, gravitational field rising. It's pulling the ship toward the moon." The vigilant Dawn jerked violently, the hull groaning under the strain as consoles sparked around them. Aiden gripped the command railing, fighting to stay upright. "Stabilize the engines. Full reverse. Don't let it drag us in." Myra's fingers flew across her console, her face pale. "It's not a gravity weapon. It's something else. It feels like it's pulling us on purpose." Aiden clenched his jaw. "It wants us." The Primeform extended its arm, and a beam of golden energy shot forward. It wasn't an attack. It wrapped around the ship like a living rope, pulling them ever closer. "Sir, we're losing control. We're being pulled into the vault," Curran yelled. Lights flickered and died. The ship groaned again. Aiden forced himself to think through the chaos. Why would it want us alive? Mira swallowed hard. Maybe we activated something by using that code. Ashfall, Aiden remembered the vault's chilling message. Command accepted, but at a cost. That cost was becoming terrifyingly clear. The Primeform opened its mouth. Its voice didn't come through the speakers. It echoed directly inside their minds. "The Ashfall protocol has begun." Mira staggered backward, clutching her head. "It's speaking inside us." The voice continued, cold and absolute. "Humanity has risen too far. The balance must be restored." Aiden shouted at the viewscreen, a futile act of defiance. "Restore what balance? Who decides?" "You." The Primeforms. Golden eyes narrowed, its gaze piercing through the ship. "Through them. We do." A new surge of power slammed into the vigilant Dawn. The vault opened wider, creating a tunnel of blinding light that led straight into the moon's core. Curran screamed, "Captain, we're being dragged into the core." The ship fell toward the moon like a stone. Aiden yelled, "Everyone brace." The light consumed them, plunging the bridge into darkness. And for the first time, Aiden realized the terrible truth. The vault wasn't just waking up, it was calling humanity home. The vigilant Dawn plunged through the glowing dust as the moon swallowed the ship whole. For a moment, the crew could hear nothing, not the alarms, not the engines, not even their own voices. It felt like they were falling through complete silence. Then, just as suddenly, the darkness vanished. They had entered a vast chamber deep inside the moon, a space so large it could have held entire cities. The ceiling was a dome of black metal, with rivers of red and gold light pulsing across it like living circuits. The floor far below glowed faintly, covered in ancient, indecipherable symbols. Mira gasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Captain, this place is bigger than the moon's actual size allows." Aiden nodded slowly, his eyes wide. "It's not normal space. It's a pocket dimension. The humans of the old age created this place to hide whatever they feared the most." The ship hovered above a glowing platform at the chamber's center. The Primeform, the strange entity they had followed, floated down after them, landing silently. Behind it, thousands of prototypes entered in perfect, unnerving formation, surrounding the chamber like statues. Aiden, Mira, and Curran stood on the bridge, watching through the front glass in cold fear. The Primeform raised its hand. The ship stopped moving. Completely. The engines fell silent, as if the very air around them had frozen solid. Then, a voice echoed in their minds again, cold and utterly emotionless. "Welcome, descendants." Mira flinched. "Descendants, it thinks we're its children." Aiden stepped forward, his posture rigid. "We need answers." Curran put it on speaker. "I can try," Curran said, his hands trembling over the controls. The Primeform tilted its head, studying them like a scientist examines a small, curious animal. "You speak as if you command this era, yet you are only fragments of the humanity we once knew." Aiden felt a strange, unexpected pang of shame, but he forced his voice to remain steady. "What are you?" he demanded. The Primeform's eyes glowed brighter. "We are what humanity tried to become. We are the limit. The point where evolution burns the weak away." The prototypes behind it stood perfectly still, their glowing eyes fixed on the ship. "When your ancestors realized they were creating something too powerful, they sealed us in this vault to prevent a future where we would rule over them." Mira frowned. If humans created you, why are you hostile to us? The Primeform's answer was instant. We are not hostile. We are corrective. Aiden's jaw clenched. Corrective to what? The Primeform lifted its hand. A beam of golden light shot across the room, creating a floating hologram of the galaxy. Dozens of red lights blinked across its spiral arms. Humanity has grown beyond the balance. The red dots spread outward, marking human colony worlds, fleets, and expansion routes. Your species has achieved dominance in less than 5,000 years. Too fast, too powerful, Mira muttered, her voice filled with dread. You want to slow us down? The Primeform's reply was ice cold. We will reset you. Karen's voice cracked over the comms. Captain, this thing is insane. Aiden raised his voice, shouting at the entity. Reset means destruction. You're talking about ending humanity. The golden eyes narrowed. If needed, the prototypes shifted slightly, taking up new positions. A silent army waiting for a single order. Aiden looked around the vast chamber, his heart pounding. We need to talk our way out of this, he muttered to his crew. Fighting them is suicide. Mira spoke quietly, her voice trembling. Captain, look. She pointed toward the far end of the chamber. A massive structure rose there, tall, black monolith covered in blue symbols. Unlike the rest of the vault, it wasn't glowing. It looked asleep, dormant. Aiden frowned. What is that? Before anyone could move, the Primeform spoke sharply, its voice laced with something new. Caution. Do not approach the Null Core. Aiden froze. Null Core. The Primeform's voice darkened. It is the only creation we fear. Korn whispered. If they fear something, it might be our only chance. The Primeform turned toward the monolith, its eyes narrowing. The Null Core was built to erase us if we ever rebelled. The prototypes behind it shifted uncomfortably, like soldiers hearing the name of a weapon made specifically to kill them. But your ancestors failed. The Null Core was never activated. You are not worthy to use it. Aiden and Mira exchanged a look. A weapon, a failsafe, a way to stop them. Aiden took a slow, deep breath. What makes you think we are not worthy? The Primeform stared at him, its eyes burning with intensity. Because you used the Ashfall code. Aiden tensed. So what? The chamber trembled softly as the Primeform floated closer. Ashfall does not shut us down. Ashfall summons us. You called our awakening. Myra pressed a hand to her forehead, the horror of the revelation washing over her. We triggered this. Aiden felt a cold dread grip him. We activated the reset. The Primeform looked at their ship like one looks at a dying spark. And so now, the balance will be restored. The prototypes lifted their hands in unison, and energy began to build around them. Curran screamed into the comms. Captain, they're about to attack. Aiden made a choice, a desperate, final choice. Curran, take us toward the Null Core, he ordered. Myra stared at him, shocked. Sir, Morvi, Aiden barked. It's our only chance. The ship's engines roared back to life. The Primeform's hold, slipping for the very first time, as the vigilant dawn shot forward, hurtling toward the forbidden monolith. The Primeform roared, its voice shaking the entire chamber. Stop them! The army of prototypes charged. As the ship closed the distance, the monolith lit up for the first time in thousands of years, and the Null Core awakened. The vigilant dawn tore across the chamber like a falling star, its engines screaming as Mira pushed every last bit of power forward. Sparks flew from the consoles. The hull groaned under the strain as the gravity inside the vault twisted and bent around them. Behind the ship, the colossal Primeform raised its arm, its voice booming in their minds. Stop them! At its command, thousands of prototypes moved at once, silent, perfect, terrifying. They leaped forward, their bodies glowing with an eerie blue energy. Some jumped through the air, others scurried across the walls like insects, while some simply flew. All of them had one target, the ship. Aiden clung to the railing, shouting over the piercing alarms. Mira! Faster! I'm trying, Mira yelled back, her knuckles white on the controls. They're closing in. Curran screamed from his station, his eyes wide with terror. Captain incoming on all sides. Aiden glanced at the screens. The prototypes were just seconds away. One wrong move, and they would be torn apart by those glowing hands. But the ship didn't slow. It raced straight toward the giant black monolith at the center of the chamber, the Null Core. A cold blue light began to pulse inside the monolith. Lines of unknown symbols lit up one after another, moving like living water across its surface. The ground beneath it cracked open as immense energy built within the towering structure. Myra whispered, her voice full of awe. "It's activating by itself." Aiden shook his head. "No, it's reacting to us." Just then, the prototypes closed in. The first one reached the ship, slamming into its side like a missile. The hull dented inward with a deafening screech of metal. Alarms blared. Aiden shouted, "Shield overload! Brace!" Another prototype crashed into the front, punching the reinforced viewport. The glass cracked just a thin line, but it was enough to send a wave of panic through the crew. Mira cried out, "If one more hits, we lose the bridge." Aiden grabbed the emergency lever, his jaw set. "Prepare for impact. We are not stopping." The Null Core glowed brighter, blindingly bright now, like a star trapped in stone. The Primeform's voice thundered through their minds once more. Filled with absolute authority, "You are not worthy." The prototypes surged forward for the final attack. Just as they were about to overwhelm the ship, the Null Core pulsed. A single, silent shockwave of blue light exploded outward. In an instant, every single prototype froze mid-air. Their glowing eyes flickered like dying candles. Aiden blinked, trying to process what he'd just seen. What just happened? Mira stared out the viewport in disbelief. It stopped them. All of them. The prototypes fell to the floor like broken puppets, silent and unmoving. But the Primeform did not fall. It staggered back, letting out a roar of fury as golden energy ripped from its spine. The Null Core is forbidden. It slammed its massive fist into the ground, and the entire chamber shook. Walls cracked. A storm of raw energy tore through the room. The Null Core pulsed a second time. This time, the glow washed over the vigilant Dawn, over the crew, over everything. Aiden suddenly felt a strange pressure building in his skull. A voice. It wasn't loud and hateful like the Primeforms. This one was calm, deep, ancient, human descendant. Identify. Aiden leaned forward, his heart pounding. "This is Captain Aiden Cross of the human vessel, Vigilant Dawn." There was a pause. Then, "Humanity has changed," Mira whispered. "It's analyzing us." The Null Core spoke again, its voice resonating in their minds. "You carry the flaws of the past, but not the corruption." Aiden frowned. "Corruption? What corruption?" The monolith pulsed softly. The Primeforms were the first mistake. The prototypes were the second. The Vault's Guardian was the third. A cold dread washed over Aiden. "Then what are you?" The Null Core answered with chilling finality. "I am the final safeguard." Across the chamber, the Primeform roared in defiance. "You were never activated." The Null Core responded with a sound like rolling thunder. "Because humanity never needed me." The Primeform charged. The Null Core pulsed again. An invisible force threw the Primeform back, slamming it into the wall hard enough to crack the stone around it. But it stood up again, glowing even brighter, flames of golden energy spilling from its arms. Aiden realized something terrifying. The Primeform could resist the Null Core, not fully, but enough to fight back. Mira's voice trembled. "Captain, I think the Primeform is too strong. The Null Core can't hold it forever." As if on cue, the prototypes on the ground twitched. Some were beginning to awaken. Curran shouted, "Sir, they're getting back up." Aiden's mind raced. They had seconds before they were overwhelmed again. He turned toward the glowing monolith. "Null Core," he shouted. "What do you need to shut the Primeform down for good?" A long, heavy pause. Then the Null Core spoke, a human command. Aiden frowned. "Which command?" The chamber darkened. The monolith's lights narrowed to a single, intense line. "Override protocol. Level 0. Mira's voice cracked. "Level 0. Captain, humans never used that protocol. It's too dangerous." The Null Core replied, its tone unwavering. "It will destroy the Primeform. It will deactivate the prototypes, and it will collapse the vault." Aiden went still. "Destroy the vault. Destroy everything inside it. Maybe even destroy them and the ship along with it," Curran whispered, his voice barely audible. "Captain, if you say yes, we might not survive." The Primeform roared, charging again, its golden energy tearing up the floor. Aiden looked at his crew, their faces a mix of fear and trust. Then at the army of prototypes waking behind the Primeform. He made his choice. He stepped forward, his voice clear and steady. Activate override protocol, level 0. The Null Core lights flared to an impossible brightness. Confirmed. The Primeform froze mid-charge, sensing what was coming. You dare. Before it could finish, the Null Core fired a beam of pure blue energy straight into its chest. The chamber exploded with light. Aiden shielded his eyes as everything shook violently and the vault began to collapse around them. The blue beam from the Null Core slammed into the Primeform's chest. For the first time since it woke up, the creature screamed. Not a roar of anger, but a raw animal shriek of pain that shook the entire chamber. Golden cracks spiderwebbed across its armor-like skin. Sparks flew from its spine. Its glowing eyes dimmed for a moment, then flared bright again as it fought back against the Null Core. Overwhelming energy. Gripping the bridge railing, Aiden watched, his knuckles white. It's working, but it's not enough. Mira's voice trembled from her station. Captain, the vault walls are breaking. He was right. Huge slabs of ancient stone were crashing down from above. Red lightning forked across the high ceiling. On the floor below, the prototype creatures twitched violently. Some managed to pull themselves up, lurching back to their feet, while others just collapsed into heaps of broken machinery. The Primeform bellowed, its voice shaking the very air. You cannot erase us. With impossible strength, it began to push back against the blue beam, step by agonizing step, its muscles straining under the immense force. The Null Core's voice echoed in the chamber, deep and cold. You are a corruption of humanity. The Primeform screamed back. We are humanity's true future. Crack. Another fracture opened on its chest. Golden light spilled out as the beam burned deeper, tearing into the Primeform's very core. But it didn't fall. Instead, it did something far worse. It reached out and grabbed the beam with both of its hands. Mira gasped. It's absorbing the attack. Curran stumbled back from his console. That's impossible. Only a machine can do that. Aiden shook his head, his eyes fixed on the battle. It's not a machine, it's something else. Something between life and a weapon. As if on cue, the prototypes rose again. They were slow, shaking, but they were rising. Their blue eyes flickered back to life, and they began their broken, unstoppable march toward the ship once more. Null Core. Aiden shouted. Increase power. I cannot. The voice replied flatly. Level 0 is the maximum. The Primeform glared at the monolith, its eyes burning with molten fury. You are weak. The ground cracked open beneath its feet as it took another step forward, dragging the blue energy beam with it, pulling it closer and closer to the Null Core itself. The monolith's lights flickered. Aiden felt his heart plummet. Mira turned to him, her expression urgent. The chamber began to shake with violent force. Fire erupted from the fissures opening in the floor. Curran pointed frantically at his sensors. Sir, the vault is breaking into real space. If we don't escape now, we'll be crushed with it. But Aiden couldn't look away from the Primeform. Even wounded, even weakened, the creature was still trying to destroy the Null Core, still trying to restart its ancient mission to reset all of humanity. He shook his head slowly. We're not running. Mira stared at him, aghast. If that thing escapes, Aiden said, his voice grim, humanity dies everywhere. With a final, triumphant roar, the Primeform, wreathed in golden flames, lifted the energy beam and hurled it aside. The beam slammed into the far wall, and the Null Core attack was broken. The chamber plunged into near darkness. Its chest glowed like a dying sun trying to reignite. Aiden whispered, his voice tight. Mira, do we have any weapons strong enough to hurt that thing? Myra slowly shook her head, her face pale. Nothing humanity has can kill a Primeform. Aiden's jaw clenched. He looked toward the glowing monolith. The response came slowly, the core's voice fading. One method remains. Aiden leaned forward. Tell us. A direct human link. Myra frowned. A link? What does that mean? The Null Core pulsed weakly. A human mind must connect to the core and guide its power. Aiden froze. Mira's eyes widened in horror. No, Captain, you can't. Connecting directly, it could kill you. He didn't look at her. He just watched the Primeform, which had started walking toward their ship again. If that's what it takes, I'll do it, Captain. Mira stepped forward, grabbing his arm. You can't just sacrifice yourself. Aiden finally looked at her, his expression calm and resolute. Humanity put this thing here. Humanity buried it. And humanity woke it up. He looked back at the advancing monster. Now, humanity has to end it. The surface of the Null Core opened like a great stone flower, revealing a glowing sphere inside a pulsing, blue heart. A platform extended out from its base, bridging the gap to the ship. Mira tightened her grip on Aiden's arm. "It doesn't matter," Aiden said softly. "If I don't, everyone dies." But before he could take a single step, someone else moved. Curran. He sprinted past them and stepped onto the platform before anyone could react. "Curran," Mira shouted. "What are you doing?" Curran turned back to them. "I'm the only one who understands the Core's language. I decoded the signal. I opened the vault. Accidentally." He gave a weak, shaky smile. "Curran, stop," Aiden yelled. "You don't have to," but Curran had already stepped into the light. He screamed as the link was forged. The Primeform whipped its head around, turning its full attention to the Core. "No." The entire vault shook with a deafening, tearing sound. Curran screamed again, but this time it wasn't a scream of pain. It was a roar of pure, unadulterated rage. A blinding blue light exploded outward, burning the chamber white-hot. The Primeform charged. Curran's eyes. The vault exploded in a blinding flash of blue light. Curran floated before the Null Core, his entire body trembling like a wire overloaded with power. His eyes blazed with a light so intense you couldn't look directly at him. Aiden threw an arm up, shielding his face as a shockwave blasted through the chamber. Myra staggered, dropping to one knee. Even the ship's primary shields flickered under the strain. From across the vault, the Primeform let out a deep, ancient roar that vibrated through the very air. "You dare!" it bellowed. It charged, golden flames erupting round its feet, the ground cracking with each thunderous step. The prototype soldiers were tossed aside like toys as the colossal machine zeroed in on Curran, the new link, the only threat powerful enough to end its reign. But Curran didn't flinch. He stood like a statue, wreathed in blue fire. The Null Core voice echoed through him, a synthetic monotone layered with immense power, human intent confirmed. Then Curran spoke, his own voice amplified, layered with something far greater. "We finish what your creators feared." Aiden stepped forward, shouting to be heard over the chaos. "Curran, can you control it?" Curran didn't turn. Not control. Guide. Just then, the Primeform leaped, its razor-sharp claws extended, ready to tear him apart. Blue energy erupted from Curran's hands. The blast struck the Primeform with enough force to hurl it across the entire chamber. The giant slammed into the ancient wall, shattering stone like glass. Mira stared, her voice a whisper of disbelief. He actually hurt it. Aiden exhaled, a sliver of hope cutting through the tension. "Then we have a chance." But Curran's voice cut through the air again, this time shaking, cracking under the strain. "Captain, I can't hold this for long." The Primeform was already rising. Its golden armor was cracked, but the light within it glowed brighter, angrier. Its movements were slower now, but filled with pure, unadulterated rage. "Human, you are not worthy of the Core." It charged again. Curran raised both hands, unleashing another wave of energy. The blue light slammed into the Primeform, but it was weaker this time. Aiden saw it instantly. Curran's power was fading. Myra whispered what they both feared. "He's burning out." The Primeform closed the distance, its massive hand clamping around Curran's throat, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. Sparks of blue and gold erupted where they met, two violent storms colliding. Curran struggled, but the Primeform's strength was absolute. Aiden yelled, his voice raw, "Curran, disconnect. You'll die." Curran looked down at him, a tired, pained smile on his face. "It's okay. Someone has to pay the cost." The Primeform tightened its grip. Cracks of pure light began to spread across Curran's body, as if he were a statue breaking from within. He whispered, his voice barely audible, "Captain, one last command." Aiden moved closer, his fists clenched tight. "Say it." Pain twisted Curran's face, but he forced the words out. "Tell the Core to overload." Aiden froze. Mira screamed, "No, overload will kill him." But Curran just shook his head slightly. "It will kill it too." The Primeform roared and slammed Curran into the wall. The blue light around him flickered violently. Aiden's heart pounded in his chest. Curran was dying. The vault was collapsing. The Primeform was seconds away from victory. Taking a deep breath, Aiden stepped forward and shouted, "Toward the Core," his voice ringing with authority. "Null Core. Overload. Sequence activate." For a single, deafening second, the chamber fell silent. Then boom, blue cracks shot across the floor. the Null Core began to glow like a newborn star. Corin's body shone brighter and brighter until he was no longer a man, but a silhouette of pure, blinding light. The Primeform released him, taking a step back. No tone floated upward, a burning blue figure of immense power. His voice echoed one last time through the vault. For humanity. The Null Core answered. Overload confirmed. A wave of light burst from Corin, so brilliant the entire vault turned white. The Primeform screamed not in anger this time, but in raw, primal fear. The blue explosion swallowed everything. Aiden felt the blast wave throw him backward. Mira covered her face. The ship's alarms shrieked, drowned out by the roar of the detonation. The vault itself cracked open like a dying star, and for a moment there was only silence. When the light faded, Aiden slowly opened his eyes. The Primeform's massive golden body lay broken on the ground. Its chassis split open, its core shattered like black glass. The light within it was gone. Mira whispered, "Is it dead?" Aiden nodded slowly. Yes, in the center of the chamber, where Corin had made his stand, only dust remained, glowing blue dust, floating in the air like tiny ethereal sparks. Mira wiped a tear from her face. He really did it. Aiden stood silently for a long moment, the weight of the sacrifice settling upon him. "Corin saved all of us," he said, his voice heavy. "He saved humanity." The vault walls began to crumble. The Null Core's light went dark forever. Aiden turned toward the ship. Everyone, aboard, were leaving now. They ran, the engines of the vigilant dawn roaring to life, pushing them upward through the collapsing chamber. Behind them, the vault crumbled into dust and memory. As the ship shot into orbit, Aiden looked out the window one last time, whispering to the empty space. Goodbye, Corin. Humanity was safe, but the cost was forever carved into Aiden's heart. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more.